and welcome to Used Car Heaven here on Men and Motors. Well, we've got a very special programme coming up for you this week because we've lined up 3 supercars for this week's guest, who has a substantial budget, let me tell you. We'll meet him very soon. Also on the programme this week, Simon Hughes, the car doctor, is back in the surgery, and Brad will have more insider tips at the trading post. So who could be after either a Porsche, a Ferrari or an Aston Martin? Let's see, shall we? Well, our guest this week on Used Car Heaven is Valentino Martino. Tino is 27 and director of a company in Macclesfield. Tino's current car is a Mercedes, but he's built up his business over the past few years and now has some serious cash to spend on something that bit special, a car for the weekend. So what have we lined up for him? Tino, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for joining us on this week's Used Car Heaven. So at the moment, what do you drive right now?
Mercedes C240.
And are you going to get rid of that, or
I would get rid of that, yeah.
What sort of money have you got to spend on your
I've
new
got
car?
about £60,000 to spend.
So some serious cash.
Yeah.
A serious car you're after.
That's what I'm after.
Well, I think the 3 that we've lined up today are serious cars. First is this Ferrari 355 Spider.
Yeah, a very serious car.
Do you like it?
I do that much.
About 4 years old, cost 105 grand new, about 74 now. It's done a low mileage.
Yeah, I mean, it looks ideal, something that I'm looking for.
Would you go for a soft top, or would you look for a fixed head or the Targa version of the 355 maybe?
Well, initially I'd probably go for the Targa version.
Yeah.
But seeing this, I do like it, and the hood is elegant.
What about in yellow?
Again, the colour isn't really what I was looking for, but it does suit the car.
It looks all right actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, car number 2, Aston Martin, DB7. This is the Vantage, so it's the V12.
Right.
So it's the one that's currently in production rather than the 6-cylinder supercharged one before. Again, costing you over 90 grand. You can get much change out of 100 by the time you've added a few bits and bobs to it.
Right.
But these are starting to come down in price now and starting to get around the 70 grand mark and even a little bit less than that. So it's maybe just slightly over your budget, but I think you might find the right one for about 65 if you could stretch that a little bit further.
Yeah, well, I didn't initially think of going for something like this, but seeing it today, it does look nice, and it's something that's swaying me slightly. So
it's a car you can use every day.
Yeah, it is.
It's an automatic, it's a GT, it's more of a Grand Tourer than a sports car.
Yeah, it is more practical, but maybe that's not what I'm looking for. So
is it something you're going to take out occasionally in
I think,
weekends and holidays and things like that?
I think so, more occasionally, but it depends how I enjoy it really.
Okay, what about this Porsche 993?
Yeah.
It's a C4S, so it's the wide-bodied car. Again, costing you over 70 grand. It's an R-Edge, it's the air-cooled engine, sounds great. It's now about 48,000 pounds, so it's the cheapest of the 3.
So it's well within budget.
Nice low mileage car, full service history.
Yeah, I mean, I do like this car. The build quality is good on these, I know that from experience, but yeah, I could quite see myself.
And on a wet day like this, I mean, this is the car to have,
yeah.
4-wheel drive as well.
Well, I can't make any mistakes in this one.
Jump in, we'll take it out for a spin.
Okay.
See what you think.
Right.
Well, Tino, this is the Porsche 993 911 C4S. As we were saying before, it's one of the last of the wide-bodied cars that they made with the air-cooled engine, which sounds great behind you, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It really got a nice roar to the back end.
But does it maybe look a bit dated in here, and the exterior as well?
Well, I think, yeah, there is an element of dateness to it, but at the same time, I don't think that's such a bad thing because it all works.
It does. 4-wheel drive, you've got, perfect for a day like this.
Perfect.
It's very much an everyday car, I think, this, isn't it?
It is. I mean, to be quite honest with you, now I'm sat in the seat, I don't think I want to get out really. I just feel like I just want to keep driving.
Yeah, feels that good.
And this rev count in the middle, it's just brilliant.
It's a low mileage car, it's only done 20-odd thousand miles this.
Yeah.
48,000 pounds. I think this is probably pretty good value for money. It's got full Porsche service history, which is a must on this sort of age of car. Well, let's see what Brendan thinks of the Porsche 993.
When you consider the crop of cars Tino's got to pick from today, this Porsche 911 might seem a little bit, dare I say it, boring. Because you think of Aston Martins, you think of James Bond, you think of Ferraris, you think of a whole host of movie stars and Ralph Schumacher. You think of Porsche 911, I think of James Dean, and I think that's cool because this car is a 20th century icon. Nearly 50 years old, they've given it a few nips and tucks, a bit of cosmetic surgery, but it's still the same car it was 40 odd years ago. Now with all 911s, the beauty starts the minute you close the door. Listen to this. See that? That is a beautiful door closing sound. You see, with Ferraris, you're buying an engine on wheels. With a Porsche, you're buying the full package. This car is built to last and built to be driven. It's not temperamental, it's not going to break down on you. I love the styling of the car. There's a massive rev counter right there in the middle, and the buttons, they're pull-out switches that I've not seen since my mum had a Morris Minor. The engine too is an objet d'art. For Men and Motors viewers, that's an object of art. Now, under here is another reason why this 911 is a really special car, because it's got that classic dry sump air-cooled engine. They call it the last Porsche for purists. It's got that brilliant 3.6 litre 6-cylinder inline engine generating about 350 brake horsepower. But Tino, this car is special because it's affordable. This car has got 22,000 miles on the clock, it's a 97, and it comes in only £48,000, well within your budget. And this car, unlike the others, isn't going to break down. It's as reliable as anything on the road. And it goes very, very fast indeed. Tino, keep your Ferrari, take the Porsche.
Well, Tino, that's the first car for you today.
Yeah.
911 C4S, the 993, that wonderful air-cooled engine. Do you like it?
I did. I liked it very much. I think everything was right about it. The driving position was good.
Great build quality on it.
Brilliant build quality.
Sort of car that will go for years and years and years without any problems whatsoever, is it?
Yeah, it feels like that as well. It feels like it's going to last a long time.
Cheapest of the three cars, 47, 48 grand for this one.
Yeah.
Good value for money.
It is. It is.
So you'd maybe consider it?
I would definitely consider it.
Okay.
It's one on the list.
One on the list. We've got to drive the Ferrari next, but before all that, we need to see what's happening at the surgery. Here's the car doctor, here's Simon.
Today I'm sat in a lovely Fiat Cinquecento, a P-registered one, which are very, very good, ideal for town, not that good for long journeys. But I'm going to tell you about a little problem they've got at the moment, and it's kind of down here between the seats. And it's the handbrake. It's a very simple device here, obviously, but it goes terribly wrong. And that what happens is the mechanism underneath the car actually seizes up and doesn't work anymore. So you'll go to pull your handbrake on, and it doesn't work. So this is the tip. When you're out in your little cheeky Fiat, instead of just pulling the handbrake on at the end of a journey, actually work it up and down a few times so that it's getting used, and hopefully that way it won't seize up through lack of use.
And there'll be more from the car doctor Simon Hughes next week here on Used Car Heaven. On this week's programme, we're looking to find a really smart car for Tino. Got about £60,000 to spend. We've driven the Porsche 911, the 993 variant. What about the Ferrari 355 Spider?
Right, okay.
We need to go.
Let's go.
Well, Tino, it's a Ferrari, it's a 355, it's a Spider.
Yeah, I feel like I've made it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Now this has done what, 21,000 miles? So it's a nice low mileage example.
Yeah.
Again, like we were talking about before in the Porsche, I mean, imperative you've got full Ferrari service history with any sort of car like this that you're going to buy. You've got to protect your investment.
Yeah, really. I mean, with a Ferrari, it's where do you take it for a service? It's not like you can take it to your backstreet garage and just change the spark plugs. I'll save a few quid there. Oh, listen to that.
Doesn't that sound fantastic?
That is amazing. We just need this van out of the way now.
So, I mean, that's what you buy this sort of car for, isn't it? To hear that.
Yeah, I mean, before, as we were driving on them windy roads.
When you're tootling about.
Yeah, tootling about. You know, I was thinking like, yeah, this is nice, but when I just put my foot down there and I heard that roar,
yeah.
and I'm going to do that again.
375 brake horsepower, rear wheel drive, of course. It's got no gadgets, no gizmos, no traction control, no stability programs whatsoever. I mean, it's a raw car.
Yeah.
Well, for more about the Ferrari 355, here's Brendan.
What you're looking at there are the two things that you pay for with this car. Firstly, the badge, it's a Ferrari. The second is the engine. That's what they say about Ferraris. You're buying an engine on wheels. The air vents and switches, they're off a Fiat Uno. No one cares. What you're paying for is a 3.5 litre V8 engine with 5 valves per cylinder. Racing car this may be, but it's also completely the most ridiculous, impractical car of the three, if not in the whole world. For a start, the steering wheel is far too close to the dashboard. You get nail marks in the leather there. To get in and out, you have to be a Romanian gymnast. A double jointed one at that. You need 10 minutes to warm the car up before you go anywhere. Once you've got there, you probably need about 10 minutes to warm it down. But like a finely tuned athlete, it's made for speed and power. It's perfectly balanced. Mid-engine, gearbox just there, 6-speed gearbox is the finest I've ever driven. This car is made for racing. But Tino, it's also very expensive. This Spider 355 is about £74,000. It's got 21,000 miles on the clock, so it's just outside your budget. But shop around for a slightly higher mileage model, perhaps sacrifice the Spider if you can bear to, and you will get yourself a supercar for between £50,000 and £60,000. My only advice to you, Tino, would be buy yourself a Mini to do the shopping in, because, by the way, if you put a packet of sausages and a loaf in that boot, it's full. But this car isn't made for shopping. Get yourself a Mini. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in used car heaven.
Oh boy, that puts a big smile on your face, doesn't it, Tino?
That was fabulous.
Did you like it? I thought you might do.
I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was an experience, that was.
The Porsche is good, but this offers something different, doesn't it?
It's a unique drive. The thing what pulled it for me was the acceleration.
And the
noise
as well.
it made. It just had to hear it over and over again. Should only have 2 gears, first and second.
So, I mean, this particular one at 74 grand is probably a little bit expensive for you, but you could certainly find a nice 355 for 60.
I think I've decided, well, I'm like that, but the Ferrari is on the top of the list at the moment.
At the moment, okay.
At the moment.
We'll drive the Aston Martin very soon in part 2 of this week's programme. Also on the way in part 2, Brad will have more insider tips at the Trading Post, and that's all in a couple of minutes' time. Welcome back to part 2 of Used Car Heaven. On this week's programme, we're looking to find the ultimate weekend car for Tino. We've already driven the Porsche 911 C4S and the Ferrari 355 Spider, and very soon we'll be taking this very desirable Aston Martin DB7 V12 Vantage out for a spin. Also, Brad will have more insider tips at the Trading Post, but before that, Brendan Coogan thinks a Maserati might fit the bill for Tino.
Now, the cars Tino's been looking at today, for me, are predictable. They're the obvious choices for a young man with money. Well, we're going to give him an alternative that's a marque that went out of fashion for a while, but now are making superb GT sports cars. It is Maserati. You see, from the 30s through to probably the 60s, Maserati had a glamorous image and a sporting pedigree to rival that easily of Ferrari and Porsche, if not better. But now they're back with cars like this, the superb Maserati 4200 Spider. It's a V8 4.2 litre, normally aspirated beast. It's got just short of 400 brake horsepower, will go from 0 to 60 in sub 5 seconds, and it's a car that I want to know more about. Now, inside here is every inch the modern GT sports car. The leather is beautiful, the switches are stylish and Italian. You see, unlike the Porsches and Ferraris that are a bit predictable, this car, Tino, I think has that stand out from the crowd quality. All right, not everybody's going to know what it is, but at least on a second look, they'll say, it's a Maserati. And those who know will be impressed. But, Tino, here's for the surprisingly painful bit. All of this Italian craftsmanship and style comes at a surprisingly high price. This Spider with its F1 paddle shift, they've got a fancy name for it, but it's the same thing, and its sat-nav system and its leather comes in at about £70,000. But if you shop around and get one with about 6,000 or 7,000 miles on the clock and on about a 51 plate, you should get one easily within your £60,000 budget. It's an everyday supercar and one that's not too common. It's just an alternative, Tino, but it's a good one.
Thanks, Brendan. So Brendan's giving you an alternative suggestion of the Maserati Spider.
That's right.
You can have a brand new one of those for the same sort of money as you would pay for a 4-year-old Ferrari.
Well, it's like having the looks of this car, but the build quality of the Ferrari. I think that concept isn't quite the right way around.
But what about this car? Aston Martin DB7 Vantage V12 engine,
good engine, nice sound. The build quality of this car is just
Beautiful inside.
It's like being in the sofa at home.
Let's see what it drives like.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Well, Tino, car number 3, your third and final car for the day, Aston Martin DB7, and it's the Vantage.
Right.
It's the V12 engine. It's 420 brake horsepower. So in terms of power, it's the most powerful of the 3 cars today, easily. Do you like it?
It is comfortable.
Yeah.
But that's the main line to this one. It's comfortable, and for me, I'm not sure if that is the line I'm looking for.
Isn't it?
Let's see what it sounds like. This is the whole thing with this car. You don't realise how fast you're going until it's almost too late.
Smooth, isn't it?
It's very smooth.
It's got all the toys on it. Heated seat.
Yeah.
One thing that is a bit of a letdown is the switchgear in it, which comes straight out of a Ford Mondeo or a Mazda in some instances, which is a real shame when you're paying this sort of money for a car that, you know, they've got to raid the Ford parts bins to come up with the heater controls and things like that.
Yeah, but I feel that the kind of person who can afford this car is never going to sit in a Mondeo, so never really going to know unless somebody tells
Very true.
them.
Well, for more about the Aston Martin DB7, here's Brendan.
The name's Coogan. Brendan Coogan. Apologies for the very bad Scottish accent, more Alan Hansen than Sean Connery, but we are of course talking James Bond and Aston Martin. Ever since he strode onto our screens in that beautiful DB5, the Aston has been the car of the connoisseur, the car of choice. You can keep your Ferraris and Porsches on the bedroom wall. This is the cool car. But that of course was back in the days when you could call a girl pussy galore and smoking was cool. Now this magnificent British beast is the V12 Vantage, 400 odd brake horsepower, so it's far too much car than Tino's budget will allow. But he can get an original DB7 straight 6 supercharged for his money. Have a look inside. Now the inside of this Aston Martin is like a gentleman's club. It's leather, suede, walnut burr abound, and it is absolutely sumptuous. But there is a niggle. Those buttons belong in a Mondeo. That door handle I've seen on an MX-5. How it's ended up here, I've no idea. But don't let that get in the way, Tino. This isn't one of your usual suspects. Have a drive of the Porsche, the Ferrari. But this, if you want to stand out from the crowd, I think this is, well, it's more of a Bond car. It's got a license to thrill.
Well, Tino, an Aston Martin is good enough for James Bond. Is it good enough for you?
Well, as a car, it is good enough. I mean, it's a stunning car.
It's a lovely car,
The
isn't
interior, I mean, what can I say?
Built by craftsmen, hand built. It's got that wonderful finish to it, hasn't it?
It's amazing, the interior.
And now that the Vantage model is coming down cheaper in the marketplace, under 70 grand, 65 to 70 for a nice car like this, you get that V12 engine, you get all that power. As a Grand Tourer, if you wanted to do big distances over the continent or something, I mean, this is the car to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming more affordable, and for long journeys, it's ideal and perfect.
But maybe not as a weekend car for what you're looking for.
It's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something a bit different, a bit just to use from the odd day and just to enjoy myself.
Okay, don't tell me your decision just yet. I think I know what you're going to choose, number one. But before that, we need to head off to the trading post to see what Brad's up to.
This is a stunning Ferrari 550 Maranello. Up until very, very recently was the flagship of the Ferrari fleet. Underneath the bonnet is an awful lot of power. V12 5.5 engine pumping out 450 brake horsepower. If you look inside the car, typical Italian styling, finished off very, very nice. The car has a 6-speed gearbox, power steering as standard, and air conditioning as standard. Be aware when you're buying one of these vehicles that service history once again is all important. Prices for these vehicles range from a 97 model of around about 65 to 70,000 pounds up to a very, very recent one up to a year old with low mileage of around about 120,000 pounds.
Thanks, Brad, and there'll be more insider tips from the Trading Post next week here on Used Car Heaven. But now it's almost the end of the programme and it's decision time. Now, we always like to do a 3-2-1 for the guest each week, but this week it's going to be a 2 and a 1 because we've got a joint heat for second place. So, Tino, you've had a great day today driving these cars.
I have.
You can't split these, can you? The Aston Martin and the Porsche.
Honestly, I can't, because
they're both cracking cars, aren't they?
They are. I can't knock that car and say that's got to come third. I can't say this one's got to go third, because they're both unique in their own right, really.
So the Aston Martin, wonderful touring car,
Yeah.
bags of power. I mean, it looks fantastic. The interior is wonderful.
Yeah, it is growing on me, but I mean, I've made my decision. But this is the interior is just out of this world, and the way it looks.
And the Porsche, I mean, some would say this is beginning to look outdated now because it's old technology, but it's that wonderful air-cooled engine. Porsche purists love these 993s.
Yeah.
They're not enamoured by the latest 996s.
No,
And for 48 grand, I think this is a hell of a car.
that's the good thing about that. The price of it is every car for its money.
Four-wheel drive, wonderful as well on the road.
Yeah.
So, joint second, we can't split those, which means, and I'm not surprised about this, the Ferrari 355 Spider. Not particularly cheap, slightly out of your budget, 74 grand
Yeah.
for this particular one. But we said before, you'll find the right car for 60 grand.
I think
You'll find a very nice Berlinetta.
Yeah, I think yellow isn't quite my colour, but the car is the car I want.
A red one with crema might be the right one.
Yeah, that's. I think
And you're happy
that's
to
the
go
one
for a
for.
slightly older one to fit into
Yeah,
your budget.
I mean, whichever one I go to look at, I'm going to fall in love with it, because they're a stunning looking car.
And the noise is fantastic.
The engine, I mean, you put your foot down and that is sold to anyone.
I can see why you've chosen that. Tino, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
That's it for another Used Car Heaven. Join us again soon here on Men and Motors.